Is it a turning point in the race for U.S. president? Questions about Hillary Clinton's health and stamina are only part of it, after she physically seemed to falter coming out of a September 11th event at Ground Zero in New York. Then came the reporter's questions an hour later after she'd gone to her daughter's apartment to rest.
How are you feeling, Secretary Clinton?
Great. Feeling great.
What happened? Just a second, give us a little statement.
It's a beautiful day in New York.
Madam Secretary, how are you feeling?
Great. I'm feeling great.
What happened? What happened?
Well, it turns out she wasn't feeling great. Why didn't she just answer the question? When her husband was president, his sly, folksy, homespun rhetoric earned him the nickname of Slick Willie. Surveys show that she just comes across as untrustworthy, and questions over past access to donors to Bill's foundation are now fueling doubts about her ethics. Hillary Clinton's great fortune is an opponent that voters find even more untrustworthy, one who's revealed even less about his own physical health. It's all happening in what's now the home stretch of a campaign unlike any other. Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at who's fit to be president. With us from Washington, communications strategist and Clinton supporter Shereka Montgomery. Thank you for being with us in the France 24 debate.
Bonjour to your viewers. Thank you so much for having me today.
Curtis Young is the former chair of the Democrats Abroad Paris Black Caucus, and thank you for being with us. And Stuart Haugen, former president of the Paris branch of Republicans Overseas. Thank you for joining us. The France 24 debate, where you can join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter, the hashtag F24debate. She suspended a 2-day fundraising tour in California to rest from pneumonia. Aides to Hillary Clinton now saying that she is expected to be back on the campaign trail later in the week. Is 2 days enough? And when you recall that she had major health issues at the end of her tenure as Secretary of State, is 69-year-old Hillary Clinton fit enough to be president of the United States? Shereka Montgomery, we've seen aides say that this has absolutely nothing to do with her health scare in 2012. Should we be reassured, though?
We should totally be very assured in Secretary Clinton's ability to, one, win this race, two, her health concerns are really no concerns, as we all know that pneumonia is as common as the common cold, and there's a report in today's Wall Street Journal that from a doctor that says just that. I think that what we're really experiencing these days is really a bias and a curve on how Secretary Clinton is being judged and graded in this campaign versus what's being used in the same standards to grade and judge Mr. Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, who has weighed in, he wished Clinton a prompt recovery in time for that first presidential debate on September 26th. But he also said in an interview with Fox News, "I think it is an issue. In fact, this last week, I took a physical, and when the numbers come in, I'll be releasing very, very specific numbers." A reminder, Stuart Haugen, that he hasn't released much on his own health, and he's 70 years old after all.
Yeah,
well, exactly. I mean,
he certainly doesn't look as decrepit as she does, to be very blunt. She's the one who's stumbling. He's the one who's up there cheering, leading the cheers, and she's the one who's being nursemaided. I'm sorry, I don't see the concern about Donald Trump's health that I just physically see in myself about Hillary Clinton's health.
Shereka Montgomery saying that we're overblowing this, that there's a double standard.
Well, she has announced that she has pneumonia. If she just has pneumonia, that's one thing. But if this pneumonia is almost symptomatic of something deeper, which is what a lot of people are saying, and who knows? But
that's what Trump does. He says, "Oh, I'm putting this out there," but he doesn't. Rely on specifics to say it.
Let's look at the video history of Hillary stumbling, going into contortions, seizures, etc. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on.
Oh, come on.
That's
Exactly.
outrageous. That's outrageous. Let's talk about
We shall
competency
see-
and health.
we shall see if it's outrageous or
Let's
not.
talk about Mr. Trump's mental capacity to actually lead a country like the United States. I frankly think that Mr. Trump is confused and perhaps even a little delusional himself because he forgets that he's running for the office of Commander-in-Chief of the United States and not for the former Soviet Union. He seems as if he's in the bag.
Oh, we could
of
play
Mr.
this game.
Vladimir
We could
Putin.
play this game all evening if you want
It's
to,
not
but
a
it's
game.
ridiculous.
This is not the High School
No,
Musical.
it is ridiculous.
This is the United States. of
Donald
America.
Trump is fully competent to be the president of the United States. Whether you
Really,
like
he's,
his
he's
policies
never
or
been
not.
elected to office, so we don't know
what?
what his stamina is like.
So what?
In
Oh, his stamina? He sleeps 4 hours a night. He runs 17 businesses. Let's not talk about his stamina. That's crazy.
The businesses who, by the way, are bankrupt.
Oh,
and that he's had to have
We've had
several
every
bailouts
successful
from foreign
business person has
nations,
had a few
including
bankruptcies.
Russia.
Hang on, you guys.
That's why the
Here's
law.
thing, we have
That's
to
why the
really stick
bankruptcy
to the
law
facts
exists.
here.
Hang on.
Let me bring in
And
Curtis
not
Young.
just
Go ahead,
continue
Curtis.
to operate on a platform
Bail
of
us out here.
slander and false accusations.
let me just do 2 cents. This is all a diversion. Look, listen. Franklin Delano Roosevelt had polio. He was a terrific president.
He shouldn't have run for that fourth term, though.
This business of Hillary Clinton's health, yeah, she has some issues. A bigger issue than the health for me is how forthcoming is she about these kinds of things. But for me, again, this is all really a diversion from some really important issues about who's going to be president of the United States.
Shareka Montgomery.
That's what I'm concerned
we
about.
heard an aide.
Well, I am too, but- Yeah.
Shareka Montgomery.
She dies at her first.
Shareka Montgomery. We heard an aide
Yes.
to Hillary Clinton this Monday say they could have handled it better. When those reporters are asking her how she is, it's because the pool is left in the dark as to how she was at that particular moment in time. Why didn't she just say, "Hey, I'm not feeling great. I'm going to be checked out"? And why didn't she just answer the question truthfully?
Well, I just want to say this. I think number one, I have personally, and I think many of us have had loved ones and family members, and even ourselves, who have had things called walking pneumonia. You have pneumonia, you have no idea. It probably wasn't until she actually saw her physician that she actually knew that she had pneumonia. But here's the real facts. The facts here is, why are we talking about Hillary's health? She has been a great public servant in America for over 40 some odd years, 4 decades. Let's talk about Mr. Trump.
But should
the
she be saying?
lies,
But should she be
the
saying,
short-
"I feel
his
great" when she doesn't?
inability-
But should she be saying, "I feel great" when she doesn't?
And you
feel-
position those as
I'm
facts.
asking.
Let's
I'm
talk
asking
about
you as a
this. Let's talk about
community.
Mr.
No, but
Trump
I'm asking
saying
you.
he's
Position that as
smarter
fact.
Please,
than
Stuart,
US
Stuart,
generals.
please,
Let's
one at a
talk
time.
about
But wait,
Mr.
she's
Trump
not gonna let you
saying
talk.
that he thinks that Vladimir Putin does a better job than the current sitting president of the United States of America.
But
Let's
Shareka
talk about
Montgomery, let me ask
those
you as a
on the
communication
scale
strategist.
of mental capacity and good judgment.
As a communication strategist, is it a good idea to say, "I feel great" when you don't?
Here's the thing. I just want to go back to the facts. There have been 11 U.S. presidents who have campaigned and also served in office who've had health issues. That's number one. Number two, she is a human being, okay? She is not this thing, this entity that's beyond being human, okay? She wasn't feeling well. Maybe she didn't know. Let's focus on the real facts. Mr. Trump has not turned over his medical records. Mr. Trump has not released his tax returns. Mr. Trump said just last week at the IAVA forum that he thinks that he's smarter than U.S. military generals, and that next, that he thinks that he could defeat ISIS within 30 days. These are major, major issues. Counterterrorism, countering violent extremists globally. We need the help of our allies. Oh, and by the way, several months ago, Mr. Trump said that he's no longer in support of NATO. These are the real issues that we should be focusing on, and not whether or not Mrs. Clinton is suffering from pneumonia. She is competent. She's out here today and she's working really hard. I have every faith and confidence in her ability to be a great U.S. president.
But when you take into consideration former First Lady, Senator from New York, Secretary of State, a woman who's been involved for a long time in politics, running against Donald Trump, which should be a slam dunk, and the polls keep tightening. The question is why, and it goes back to this health thing, and so many other kinds of
Let's
things.
not go back to this health.
No, I just want to say this: if Mrs. Clinton would simply be forthcoming about things, that's all. Just simply be
If
forthcoming.
Mr. Trump would simply be honest and be
Mr.
consistent.
Trump
quite
is-
frankly,
Mr.
I
Trump
feel like
is-
we're
is-
dealing with a man with several faces. I mean, you think about what he did a couple of weeks ago in Mexico when he met with the U.S. president.
Sharika Montgomery, we're going to ask a
Mexico.
lot of questions about Mr. Trump during this show.
Yeah, this is
Well, just
for,
need to
for
stay
me.
focused. I mean, Mrs. Clinton is being
we saw
unfairly
Jill,
judged by the media.
former New York Times editor Jill Abramson in the Guardian newspaper this Monday write an opinion piece where she said Clinton should try a new approach, which is radical honesty. What's your reaction to that?
That's what I'm trying to say.
Mr. Trump should try things like being honest, being consistent, being a patriot for this nation, and stop repeatedly high-fiving Vladimir Putin. Second of all, he should stop being so hateful in his rhetoric. This country needs to come together. We need our friends and allies globally to fight this challenge posed by ISIS. We need people with sound judgment, not a person who flies off the handle,
All right,
who goes back and forth on policies. That's what we need to be discussing, not Mrs. Clinton's health.
But
Curtis Young.
yes,
Will Hillary Clinton now change her strategy when it comes to this issue that we're talking about?
I wish she would. I don't think she will. I wish so many times that Mrs. Clinton had simply been forthcoming about things. Emails, nobody wants to go back to the emails. As Bernie Sanders said, we're tired of talking about them. But to simply say I made a mistake in the beginning, done. To simply say I'm not feeling well, done. It's not an issue. Just to be forthcoming, that would be a brilliant strategy. Then we can focus on the things that you're talking about there in Washington about looking at Trump.
All right, let me just
what
read.
he's up to.
Let me just read this on the hashtag F24debate. One reaction: no one trusts either candidate. They should rerun the primaries rather than elect a disaster. We're pleased to be joined now from London by Patrick Smith, editor-in-chief of the Africa Report. Of course, this story about Hillary Clinton getting plenty of play where you are. What are the reactions?
In terms of her health, first of all.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I think there's a lot of concern. It's everyone said there was going to be a few black swan events before voting in November. And I think this is probably the first of many. I mean, I guess you could argue the candidacy of Donald Trump is a massive black swan event. So it's playing very badly. I mean, the networks here, the BBC has led on it, and they're talking in terms of the optics, that very important phrase in American politics, and how bad those optics look.
But black swan events, you mean events that are unprecedented, that we've never seen before, and that you're just going to have to field on the fly.
Yes, I mean, I guess in the general sense of the word, it's a black swan election. I mean, no one, if you would ask this question a year ago, how many people would have told you definitely it's Donald Trump as the Republican candidate? I think a lot of people would have told you it's going to be Hillary Clinton. And now with this health scare, I think there's a concern that this is going to hugely benefit Trump. And actually people news channels here are making a big deal out of the fact that Trump has said nothing except rather tongue-in-cheek, sent a get-well card to Hillary Clinton.
All right, here in France, by the way, we're particularly sensitive to the issue of the president's health. Back in 1974, we're going back a bit, Georges Pompidou's terminal case of cancer was treated as a state secret to the point that when he died, national television hadn't prepared a proper obituary. 7 years later, when François Mitterrand was elected president, he promised to always be open about his health. It's only midway through his second term that we discovered that he already had prostate cancer when he made that initial promise back in 1981. How much, Curtis Young, does the health of a president matter for the public's right to know?
It unfortunately not, and I say unfortunately because there are so many important issues to deal with. Unfortunately now it matters a lot because we're doing entertainment television. It isn't about substance, it isn't about policies, it isn't about ideas, it's about these kinds of things. A president's health, his mental health, her stability, that sort of thing is very important given the issues that they have to deal with on a daily basis. Yes, that's That's something that's very important, and candidates they owe us forthrightness about these kinds of things. If Hillary Clinton has a problem that she's aware of, she should be forthcoming about that. We should know about this, and not something, let's imagine that she's elected president, not something that we find out midway through the first term.
Both candidates, again, roughly the same age, 69 and 70 years old. We're in an era where the camera never blinks, where, as Curtis Young was saying, you're always in the spotlight when you're president of the United States. I've seen columns written this Monday, Stuart Haugen, suggesting that it's too old. Both candidates are too old.
Well, we have a set of primaries. Hey,
Hey,
excuse me, please. Fine. Apparently, let her talk. I'm not going to get a shot at this. It seems to me that we have to respect the vote of the American people. They chose Hillary. They chose Donald Trump. For better or for worse, we have to play this through. But I don't think we should be playing through misinformation or disinformation. And I'll be honest with you, this doesn't look like a case of pneumonia to me. It looks like something much worse.
Sharika Montgomery.
You know, it's this election, and even Mr. Trump's supporters are actually just quite amusing. I don't even know if I'm watching a sitcom or whether or not this is real life. Listen, the speculation and the borderline slander that we just articulated about Mrs. Clinton's health is really outrageous. I really want to let's talk about the things that we don't know about Mr. Trump. I mean, talk about his own campaign physician who so-called had, cleared Mr. Trump for a clear bill of health. I think what we're seeing right now, and this is the unfortunate thing, and I really must say it, that in 2016 we have Mrs. Clinton, the first woman to win a nomination, major political nomination here in the United States. And as a woman, she's unduly being judged, and all the speculation, wild speculation, just over one moment in time. She's had 47 years of public service. One moment in time. On the anniversary of 9/11, which, by the way, Mrs. Clinton was a U.S. senator. She was there. She handled the issue. She really cajoled and consoled the families who lost loved ones in that tragic day 15 years ago. And she had a moment. Let's move on. Let's talk about real issues. Let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about the thousands of Americans who are really struggling right now and really aren't that optimistic about where things are going. Let's talk about our friends and our allies who are facing this global challenge of terrorism. Let's talk about real substantive issues and not focus on things that are just moments in time.
All right, we're gonna talk about also the scrutiny under which both candidates are coming under when it comes to their ethics. When we come back, you're watching the France 24 debate.